All right, today we're going to learn about blood pressure. What do these numbers mean? How do we get them? And why are they different every time we check? Let's learn. As we all know, the heart is a muscle and it's a pump. Every time it squeezes, it's pumping blood to the rest of your body. But not only is that pumping action important, it's also important that the heart can relax so that it can fill back up with blood so that it can squeeze and pump blood again. Every time the heart squeezes, that pressure is called your systolic pressure. And every time the heart relaxes, that pressure that's still left over is called your diastolic pressure. So the heart's doing this: systolic, diastolic, systolic, diastolic, systolic, diastolic. So now that you know what we're measuring, where do we get these numbers and what do they mean? See, every time the heart pumps, it's going out to these red things, which are arteries, and they're all over our bodies. And inside the arteries, the walls also pulsate with our pressure. That's how our blood is moved throughout our bodies. Since we have a nice pulsating artery down the arm, we can check our heart's pressure. And that's where this guy comes in. This is called a sphygmomanometer, or more affectionately called the blood pressure cuff. So here's how a blood pressure monitor works. We put this cuff on your arm and we inflate it, and it squeezes your arm to the point at which it cuts off circulation from this artery temporarily, completely stops the blood flow. And then we will release the pressure. As we're slowly releasing the pressure, at some point blood will start to make its way through that artery again, now that we're not blocking it anymore. And we can hear that. We put a stethoscope to the arm and it sounds like a whoosh. Right when we first hear that sound, we look at the monitor and see the number. That's your systolic pressure. So then as we continue to deflate the cuff, the artery is being opened up more and more and more until it's not being compressed anymore and the blood can freely flow through. And then at that point, the whooshing sound will stop. The point at which we can no longer hear the blood whooshing is your diastolic pressure. So we inflate it and then deflate it until we first hear the sounds of the blood going through, that's your systolic, and then when the sounds stop, that's your diastolic. What do these numbers mean? Anybody remember these old guys? This is how we used to take blood pressure. So this thing on the wall has mercury in it. Here is mercury on the periodic table of elements and it's represented by the letters Hg. So as we're pumping, the pressure it takes to move mercury up this thing is measured in millimeters. So if your blood pressure is 120/80, then your systolic pressure is beating hard enough to move mercury up this thing to the 120 mark. That's 120 millimeters of mercury. The heart's dynamic. It responds to everything we're doing. It speeds up, it slows down, it does more pressure, less pressure. Every heartbeat has a different pressure, and your pressure will change depending on what you're doing. That's why the number is always different when you check it. Stay tuned, we're gonna learn why high blood pressure is bad and why it's called the silent killer.